Once upon a time, in the beautiful city of Lagos, lived a very rich man known as Dotun. Dotun was a very proud and arrogant man who believed the whole world was beneath his feet. From childhood, Dotun was consistently being praised for his handsome looks, his intellect, and his seemingly effortless charm. Otto inherited his family's wealth, an old prestigious fortune that was built on real estate and other high investments. It wasn't just Dotun's money that made him feel superior, however. It was his deep understanding of how to flaunt riches. Dotun was a man who could move in and out of circles effortlessly, mixing with the upper echelons of the society, which included very rich CEOs, politicians, and international celebrities. Women loved Dotun so much and threw themselves at him. Dotun was a serial heartbreaker who kept many relationships at a time and had no regards for all the women he sleeps with. Of all Dotun's numerous girlfriends, there was one who stood out amongst others. Her name was Chinasa. Chinasa came from a very poor home. She had been with Dotun for more than 8 years, long before he even became the CEO of his late father's company. Dotun, who was always cheating on Chinasa, had a way of manipulating her into sticking around with him because Chinasa was so beautiful, very intelligent, kind hearted, and was so devoted to him. Chinasa understood who Dotun was, far beyond any form of facade he puts up for the world at large. Dotun, however, knew within him that he would not marry Chinasa because of her very poor background, but he kept her around him regardless of that. Chinasa, on the other hand, treated Dotun like royalty. She adored Dotun so much and never questioned him over his wayward ways, despite knowing he was an unfaithful man. Dotun, for some reason, believed Chinasa was only condoning his excesses because she was desperate to marry him because he was so handsome and very rich. Dotun always disrespected and insulted Chinasa's poor background whenever they had any misunderstanding. This usually broke Chinasa's heart, but because Chinasa was helplessly in love with Dotun, she kept forgiving him and enduring his bad character. One fateful day, at a lavish charity event Dotun attended with his friends, he wanted to grab a glass of wine when his eyes locked with someone's eyes who seemed to have all he ever wanted in a woman at a glance. Rose was a striking beauty and a very classy girl. She came from an old money family who moved in the highest circles. Rose was perfect in every way, as she was an Ajebota who was completely untouched by the roughness of life. To crown it all, she was a virgin. The thought of being married to a very rich, classy virgin girl kept Dotun tossing over on his bed all night. In Dotun's mind, Rose was his final choice if she will have him. Despite Chinasa's long-time loyalty, Dotun didn't care, as Chinasa was a mere footnote compared to all the packages in Rose. Before Rose finally accepted to be Dotun's girlfriend, she warned Dotun that she hated womanizers. This made Dotun to quickly start breaking off things with all the women he was affiliated with, including Chinasa, as all he wanted in his life at that moment was to please Rose and start a family with her quickly. Chinasa wept out her eyes while pleading with Dotun to reconsider his decisions. But Dotun laughed at her and told her that he could never end up with a classless poor girl like her. Chinasa wiped her tears and finally left Dotun's life for good. In preparation for his proposal to his classy, rich virgin girl Rose, Dotun decided to shun out most of his bad habits, like night clubbing and sleeping with random girls. He even started attending church services and was constantly showering Rose and her family with very expensive gifts. Not long after, in a very lavish wedding ceremony, Dotun and Rose exchanged vows before their loved ones and well wishers. Dotun publicly flaunted his wife as she was too beautiful, classy, and pure to be kept away. He boasted endlessly to his friends on how no one could match him in his gains and blessings in life, as despite his reckless ways, he still landed himself a virgin wife. Dotun bragged about his first night with Rose to his friends. He happily told them how he shed a tear when he saw Rose's first virgin blood. Who can match me? He would scream out loudly before his friends. Dotun's friends would in turn hail him loudly while they all secretly laughed at him behind his back. What Dotun didn't know, however, was that his so called virgin wife, Rose, wasn't the pure, untouched woman he thought she was. Rose had been with countless men before, including some of Dotun's friends. The rich, classy lifestyle she was flaunting was from her rich men friend and not her family. Rose, who was a master manipulator, resealed her hymen at a herbalist's place her mother took her to in the north before her wedding ceremony with Dotun. Also, Rose's family's wealth, though impressive, was entirely built on lies and deception. Her family uses their so called social status to lure men like Dotun into their web of deceit and would in turn scam them and take away almost all they have. Dotun, who on the other hand was blissfully unaware of Rose's true nature, was determined to make Rose the happiest woman on earth for gifting him her purity in a world where it was so difficult to find a virgin even amongst teenagers. In Dotun's further hunger to keep being the ideal husband to his precious Rose, he started doing many things he ordinarily wouldn't do for a woman for Rose. He would cook for Rose, wash her clothes, clean the home, and even take Rose to church every Sunday so as to ensure that her heart continued to stay pure and unpolluted by the dirty things of the world. As time went on, Rose gradually started unwrapping her true self for Dotun. She started becoming extremely demanding financially, as well as bullying and controlling Dotun as it pleases her. Dotun didn't think too much of Rose's new behavior initially, as it was him who initially started everything willingly. In fact, he found it very interesting at first. It looked like some sort of spice up for their marriage, as the tortures from Rose during the day sometimes made their night sessions steamy and memorable. As Rose's control and bullying of Dotun deepened, it gradually festered itself into a regular cycle Dotun found really difficult to stop. Rose soon started berating and belittling Dotun publicly too. Can't you walk properly, Dotun? Are you a village boy? Can't you see how Morris, your friend, walks with so much grace? Rose would sometimes say to a shocked looking Dotun publicly. Rose secretly enjoyed making Dotun feel so small by constantly comparing him to other men. The pain she sees in his eyes whenever she does that to him gave her so much joy. Every extra effort Dotun puts into becoming a better man never gets any approval or validation from Rose. She rather continues to nag him softly, but in a very powerful way. Dotun, who was fast becoming a shadow of his former self, was starting to feel completely helpless to himself. He had no one to cry to or complain to, as he had boasted so much to his friends about his perfect new wife Rose that he rather swallows all his pains in secret than watch his friends mock him. Dotun at some point tried reviving his old habits by secretly visiting different women, but that quest ended up destroying his self esteem in a way he never imagined it would. You should have told me you now walk around with a dead meat between your legs, Dotun, so I won't waste my time with you, said one of Dotun's harem of women he secretly paid a visit. Dotun's manhood, for some strange reasons, no longer get up for any other woman except Rose. Dotun's frustration knew no bounds. He sought all sorts of medical helps, as well as drank all sorts of native concoctions, but nothing changed. What Dotun didn't know, however, was that Rose and her mother spiritually locked him up in a bottle. Everything that happened the night Dotun met Rose at that charity event were all strategically planned by Rose and her mother. You see, Dotun, who used to be a chronic womanizer, sometimes forgets the faces of the women he had been with. Dotun had been with Rose in the past, but he had forgotten. They once met at a luxurious nightclub and had a one night stand. When Rose called Dotun's phone the next day, he arrogantly shouted at Rose, called her a cheap prostitute, and warned her never to call him ever again. This greatly broke Rose, who didn't know Dotun was a chronic womanizer that treated women like rag. So she angrily left Lagos after that painful experience with Dotun to revamp herself and prepare for her bitter revenge upon Dotun. Rose wasn't from a very rich family like she portrays. She was from an average family that uses dark magic to scam people and take away their wealth. So it was safe to say that Dotun and his arrogant self finally messed with the wrong people. Dotun's life continued to fall like a pack of cards because of what he was passing through in the hands of Rose. Rose, on the other hand, was enjoying every bit of the pains she was causing him. The highlight of all her schemes was always watching Dotun's friends she secretly slept with make a caricature of Dotun whenever Dotun starts boasting as usual or bragging with her name. It wasn't long before Dotun started isolating himself from his friends, who no longer had regards for him and spoke to him in very condescending manner. Dotun's finances equally took a big nosedive. The incessant demands by Rose and her family, together with some very poor financial choices of his, bankrupted Dotun's father's big company that was under his care. So he was now officially broke. Women no longer found him attractive, as he wasn't just broke now but looked very sickly from overthinking and extreme stress. One fateful day, Dotun ran into his ex-girlfriend Chinasa at a supermarket. Chinasa was with a very tall, handsome man who, from the look of things, treated her so well with utmost respect and affection. One look at Dotun, Chinasa knew that all was not well with Dotun. Chinasa was one woman who knew Dotun so well, especially in his unfiltered state, more than anyone else. She loved Dotun unconditionally, regardless of his flaws. "What's going on with you, Dotun?" said Chinasa with concerns all over her face. "Nasa, I am dying," said Dotun shamelessly to Chinasa. Chinasa stared at Dotun for long, with a mixture of sadness and understanding. "Dotun," she said softly, "I knew this day would come someday. I knew you would break yourself someday with the way you were going about things in life. Now I see you have finally done that to yourself." Nasa couldn't believe how very unkempt the man she once saw and treated as a king was now looking. She took Dotun to her pastor, who performed a deliverance session on Dotun that helped him break the spiritual hold Rose and her family had on him. After Dotun's deliverance and his realization of what really happened to him, he repentantly apologized to Rose for what he did to her in the past that gave rise to her vengeance mission upon him, then went ahead to divorce her. Dotun thanked Chinasa for allowing God use her to rescue him despite all he did to her in the past. He also apologized to her for the wickedness he meted out on her when they were together and begged her to accept him back as he was willing to become the best man ever to her now. Chinasa found Dotun's request to have her back as his woman very ridiculous. "I have long forgiven you, Dotun," she said quietly while staring at him with great compassion. "I cannot go back to what we had," she continued. "Not only have I moved on from that past, I have someone now who loves me for whom I am and values me. I genuinely wish you well, Dotun, and I pray you find all the peace and strength you need to rebuild yourself again." Dotun felt so devastated over Chinasa's rejection, but was genuinely happy to know that Chinasa was finally getting all the love and care she truly deserved in life from someone else, as she was a very good person. Dotun and Chinasa remained very good family friends afterwards, as he put in immense effort into rebuilding himself while remaining very humble and forever grateful to Chinasa, the girl he treated so terribly because she was poor, but she ended up being the one God used to rescue him from poverty. This is the end of my story. The moral of this story is that nothing in life is permanent. We should be careful how we treat people. The person you look down on today may be your ultimate savior tomorrow. Thank you for watching.